Hello, everybody, and welcome in to Week 7 of the NFL season. My name is Ryan Blake. I am your host. I'm alongside Parker Dunn, Pat Fortuna, and Dominic Stern. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Doing all right.
Just
Doing
wonderful.
great. Dodgers are losing right now. That could easily change within any moment.
And
But
Doyers.
they're losing. They're losing, so I'm very happy right now.
Okay, gentlemen, we've got a very busy show. This is the first time this year that we are going to be going through both NCAA and professional sports, so let's dive right into it. Starting in NCAA basketball. Today, Penn State's head coach Pat Chambers resigned amid investigation into comments that he made towards a player, resulting in revolving around a noose comment. What are your reactions to his resignation?
Good old Penn State coaches, man.
Yeah, that's what I was going to start with by saying this is not the first time we've had an incident involving a Penn State coach. This time it was revolving around a current player. Still seems like they need to clean up stuff around that program. This is, of course, involved with basketball, as the allegations we were alluding to just previously, of course, were involving former athletic director and head coach Jerry Sandusky and Joe Paterno. This is obviously not good. They need to get rid of this. He's resigning, obviously. It's not good for the program that really had a very good year last year. They were set to make the tournament for the first time in quite some time. They're certainly not going to be as good this year. And the fact that Pat Chambers, who was a pretty good head coach, is now gone is going to not help this program's growth going forward. Hopefully the players can rally around themselves and bond together through this incident, and they can perform well. But this is not something you want going into a season that's already had a rough offseason.
Yeah, this is a terrible look. I mean, that's just an awful thing to say to anyone, especially when you're players. You're supposed to be a leader to this group, and you're supposed to lead those guys out on the court. And how can you do that when you're completely betraying their trust and completely disregarding them? And one of the most awful, it's a terrible comment. And Dom pretty much summed up all the repercussions as far as the impact it's going to have. But it's just a terrible thing. And I don't know what it is with Penn State head coaches and why there's so many weird incidents going on throughout their programs. But this is unacceptable. And, we'll see how they look going forward as they move on from him.
Can I ask? So I know what the quote is. And wasn't it generalized towards the entire team?
No, it was actually towards former, I think, guard Rasir Bolton, who transferred from Penn State to Iowa State. And the comment was, it was a reference to a noose around the player's neck.
Right. So he said, I believe exactly what it was they were going through a tough stretch. The player was playing poorly, and he said, I want to loosen that noose around your neck. Which, as a comment itself, I know what he was going for, but what a horrible delivery. I mean, what a horrible delivery. He was going for, I want you to loosen up. I want you to play better basketball. And it backfired so bad. And you know what? You got to be careful for stuff like that if you're a coach or a player or a public figure nowadays. So or you should have always had to be careful for that. But nowadays, in the era of social media and where everything's under more public scrutiny, you can't get away with stuff like that. So I think he made the right decision to step down. I think he acknowledges his mistake. However, do I want to say Pat Chambers is a racist? I don't think so. I don't think it was racially motivated, but it came off in the worst way it possibly could have.
Yeah, this is just a bad look for Penn State. And I agree with you, Pat. I don't think his intent was to be racist. Just trying to take the pressure off of him. Just wrong thing to say. You got to think before you talk in these type of situations. But going off of Dom's comments, Penn State had 26 wins last year. They were set to make their first tournament appearance since 2011 and only their fifth appearance since 1965. The progress that the program had made under Pat Chambers was really remarkable. They had done a lot to get back to that tournament, And this is only going to hurt their growth unless the players, like Dom said, can bounce back and rally around each other. It sucks to see the discipline level of coaches at Penn State continue to be lacking, because you've seen it with Jerry Sandusky, you saw it with Joe Paterno, and now you see it with Pat Chambers. You got to be better than that. You're a role model to your players. They look up to you. You got to be smarter than that, and you have to be better than that and know what to say and when to say it. So that is it on the Pat Chambers incident surrounding Penn State basketball. But there is more news in basketball. Wichita State, they are under some hot water right now, specifically head coach Greg Marshall. What do you guys know about this, and what do you guys think about it?
Well, it's obviously not a good look for Wichita State, which is a program that had really fallen down from what it once was when it was really that dominant force within the Missouri Valley Conference. And now they're under investigation for illegally recruiting players, if I'm correct, right? Yeah, and obviously they're not alone in this investigation, but right now they're being heavily investigated as more evidence is coming up against them. It's not a good look, especially when Wichita State really hasn't been good at recruiting. It's never good to cheat. It's never good to do that. But when you fail at cheating, that says something about your program and where it's going. So, I don't know. Wichita State, they're in a dire situation. It seems like they're probably going to have to move on from Coach Marshall. We'll see where this situation leads because, once again, similar to Penn State, this is one of the last things you want going into the season, which has already been a rough off season.
Yeah, for what I've seen, another aspect of it is his treatment towards his players. He has used female anatomy in ways that to insult his players in their manhoods throughout practice. You saw the same thing happen at the University of Kansas and why they fired former head coach Mark Mangino for his actions towards his players. So there's a lot of allegations going on against Greg Marshall, and the pressure's on Wichita State now to move on and find someone new. And it sucks to see because being from Kansas, you saw how terrific they were going undefeated into the NCAA tournament only a short few years ago. And it sucks to see because there was so much promise. Guys like Rob Baker, Fred Van Vliet coming out of Wichita State. So it's not a good look at all. Parker, Pat, do you guys have anything you'd like to add?
I'll just add, I had heard something about this incident. I didn't know the details, so I actually did a little bit of research into it once you mentioned the topic. And there's reports saying that he'd put his hands around the neck of staff members and supposedly had tried punching student athletes. It just seems like a mess of a scenario. That's just another terrible situation with a coach acting beyond irresponsibly and unorderly. So that sounds like a mess, absolute nightmare of a situation for Wichita State to deal with. But, it's never stuff you want to hear.
Yeah, Bobby Knight retired a long time ago for a reason. Great coach, hot temper. A lot of coaches want to be like him. I know when I coached intramural basketball, I wanted to be like him. But, in today, we're growing as a society, we're growing as people, and you can't be doing stuff like that. It's messy, it's sloppy, and it's not the most efficient way to coach a basketball team. You're not going to get the best results out of your players when you're instilling fear in them. So it I don't know, just unwise.
Yeah, that's really the only way you can characterize it as unwise. You're right, Pat. But moving on into NCAA football. The Big Ten returns this weekend. How excited are you guys to see one of the top conferences in college football come back? And is the Big Ten really Ohio State's to lose? And do you think that they're easily going to win it?
Yeah, it's 100% Ohio State's conference to lose after finally making it back to the CFP last year and then that devastating loss to Clemson. Justin Fields and company are going to come back hungrier than ever. Now, they're not going to have Chase Young on that defense. He was unarguably the best defensive player in the country last year. But that team is still loaded with talent. Coach Ryan Day last year proved that he is a very good coach, a very capable play caller. I really don't see any team that can really challenge Ohio State in terms of possibly winning the conference. Certainly a couple of good teams. Michigan's always going to be right around the top. Minnesota's projected to be very good, again, after a very strong 2019 performance last year. Penn State, good as always, but this is definitely Ohio State's conference list. Oh, Wisconsin too.
Yeah, I 100% agree. This Ohio State's to win or lose. They're coming in ranked 5th in the nation. It's very interesting, the dynamic of their conference play starting up based on the fact that all these other teams, you see top teams like Clemson are already getting in the thick of things. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're evaluated for their performance starting against Nebraska. This is a team that should, hands down, come out on top. But at the end of the day, we've seen some very huge upsets as a result of these weird circumstances that we're in. Does that mean I think that's going to happen with them and they're going to get surpassed? No, not necessarily. But I definitely think that it's definitely more of a toss-up this time around because we've seen a common trend so far, and that is that these top schools are being taken down left and right. I think they'll be added to that list. Probably not, but we'll just have to wait and see. That's what I'm most interested about as far as Big Ten play returning.
Pat, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No,
Okay, that's brief, but
no, sorry, I accidentally muted my mic.
oh no, you're good.
No, they covered it pretty well. I'm excited for good college football to be back. I'm not the biggest college football fan to begin with. I know it's a sin. I do enjoy college football. I enjoy the NFL a billion times more. Sue me, but yeah, I don't know. It'll be fun because the more sports we have right now, the better. Since we were deprived of them for so long. I say as I haven't watched an inning of this game of the World Series, but it's nice to have sports. It's nice to be able to talk about them, and this gives us something else to talk about.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited for Big Ten football. My family has 4 people who went to Big Ten schools, so my family is extremely excited. But I think that this is going to be Ohio State's conference.
Well, way to ruin the trend, Ryan. Jerk.
Well, I didn't
gone to a Big Ten school.
Okay,
and said,
honestly,
nah, Pac-12.
I'm not that bright. We all know that. But no, only my dad and I are the only ones who did not go to Big Ten schools, and we both went Pac-12. So that's just how it is. But for the Big Ten, it's Ohio State's to lose. Justin Fields is the second best quarterback in the nation. He's right behind Trevor Lawrence, and they're very close. I think that you could see Ohio State go back to the national championship game and take on Clemson in a rematch of last year's Fiesta Bowl national semifinal. That's what I can see a lot of. But I think the one thing to watch out for is the losses that you saw Ohio State take on the defensive side of the ball. Not just losing Chase Young, but also Jeff Okudah. 2 top 4 picks in the draft went to Ohio State. So I think their defense could take a little bit of a hit, but they still got Shaun Wade. They've got a lot of talent on that team. So there's always going to be so much high expectations for them. But I think they're going to surpass and they're going to be one of the top teams in college football this year. Do you guys have anything else you want to add about Big Ten returning?
It was all 100% Donald Trump and definitely nothing to do with the presidents of the schools. That was obviously
Funny
sarcasm
guy.
for my
Funny
listeners. The number one adjective that comes up when describing Dominic Stern is funny. So thank you.
Sure, funny is the word. Moving on to the NBA. 2 more teams have found their head coaches. First one being the Indiana Pacers, hiring Raptors assistant Nate Bjorkgren. I don't know if I said that correctly. I looked it up and tried to see the pronunciation. And then the Pelicans went and hired Stan Van Gundy. What are your reactions to these hires? And do you guys know anything about these guys, specifically Bjorkgren?
I personally didn't know too much about him. I do know that he was the assistant back with Toronto under Nick Nurse, of course, was a part of that champion team in 2019. So, I don't know too much about him. I'd actually have to do some more background research on him. I actually did a quick little Google search. So, he's been coaching for a while now, played in college, of course. But really the biggest thing is player development from what I've read into a little bit, like literally like seconds ago. So apparently he's good for that. They've got some young talent over there in Indiana. Whether or not they keep Victor Oladipo to be a part of that, I don't know. But they liked what they saw in him, and we'll see how it goes. He was an understudy of Nick Nurse, who's one of the best coaches in the NBA, and we'll see if he can kind of leave his mark.
I missed the prompt. What are we talking about? Sorry.
The two head coaching hires of Stan Van Gundy to
let me
Pelicans.
talk to you for a second about Stan Van Gundy.
Yeah, I'll let you get into him because I didn't actually talk about Stan.
Go ahead, Pat.
I do not like Stan Van Gundy. I have never liked Stan Van Gundy. He stinks. His brother stinks, but stinks a heck of a lot less than him. Jeff is fine in my book. However, Stan Van Gundy is smelly and the worst. And I don't like him. He's annoying and he's bad at his job. Nobody likes listening to him talk. I have never met a person who's like, oh yeah, Stan Van Gundy, he's good at what he does. No. And how long has he been out of the league? How long? I mean, it's been a while.
That is a good question. I actually don't know how long. It feels like it's been a while.
Let's see. I'm going to Google it right now, live on air.
Yeah.
Stan Van Gundy. Van Gundy. Okay.
Well, so since
okay. So I was thinking Jeff hasn't coached since like 2006. Stan was the coach of the Pistons, the dumpster fire, god awful garbage Pistons from 2014.
Yeah, and like 26. Yeah. I'm a bigger fan of the Pacers hire for sure, and the Raptors always exceeded their talent in production wise, which is obviously a sign of good coaching. We definitely saw that with the Heat this year. So I think anytime you can take an assistant coach from there is a good thing. I don't know too much about the coach himself, but I trust that they did a good job, and the Pacers are a fairly well run organization given the fact that they've also exceeded their talent in previous years. Stan Van Gundy,
look at this fat slob. Look at this guy. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just looking at pictures of him.
Thanks, Pat. Like Pat said, he wasn't a great analyst. But, Pat, you should be happy that he's now off the analyst and he's back with the Pelicans. Pelicans are a young and talented team. So
yeah, and they pooped their pants with this hire, dude. They blew it.
All right. Thank you. So all they need is a leader, and they need Van Gundy to come in and be a leader. Now, part of being an analyst is you have to be well informed about all the other teams. So now Van Gundy's coming in, he's going to be well informed about all these other teams. So if Van Gundy can assemble the players correctly, I think this has the chance to be a very good hire. This could be, similar to what we've seen with the Raiders. I said it has the potential. Pat, stop laughing
at you. I was laughing at Ethan's comment.
So before I get into it, let's address Ethan Ryder's question. He asked us, do you guys think the weight of a coach affects their ability to coach?
No.
Listen, I'm sorry I called him a fat slob. It was in a moment of pure emotion and rage. No, I don't. But I think if it did, then Stan Van Gundy's a good indication that the bigger you are, the worse of a coach you are.
Wow.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Do you proofread these questions before you read them, or do you just see the question mark and read them, Ryan? Because we could have totally gone right by that.
Oh, no, I read them. I just wanted to ask you guys.
All right,
that'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Thanks, Ryan.
But no, going into these hires, starting with Van Gundy. Van Gundy he had some success as a coach with the Magic. He has a 577 winning percentage, has over 500 career wins. Led the Magic to the finals in 2009. So there's talent. He has an ability to coach. He proved that. He's got a ton of talent. He's got Brandon Ingram. He's got Zion Williamson, Drew Holiday as of right now, even though his name has come up in trade talks. There's a lot of talent there in New Orleans. And if he could be that leader that they need, like Dom said, he could be a very good fit for them. Moving on to Bjorkgren. All I know about him is that he started off in the NBA in 2015 as an assistant with the Suns. The summer of 2019, when the Raptors traded for Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green, he joined the Raptor staff as assistant to Nick Nurse. But the two had actually coached together in the G League twice and they had both won a title in 2011 in the G League. So Bjorkgren has a lot of experience. He's worked with one of the best coaches in the NBA. I really think that he is going to be a good fit for them. And he said he's going to have them be aggressive throughout and play very, very physical basketball. So that could be really good for them. So moving on to the NFL. Week 6 thoughts. What games stood out to you? What games were most shocking? Go ahead. Each of us name a game here.
Well,
You go ahead, Don.
I'll start in Tampa Bay. The Buccaneers throttled the Green Bay Packers, who were previously undefeated. And we all were high on the Bucs. We all said that they were a good team, and we all highlighted that the defense is the reason they're a good team. And they had one of the best defenses in the NFL. However, Packers came in with the number 1 offense in the NFL. They scored 10 points in the first quarter, and you're sitting there like, wow. Tampa Bay lost last week to the Bears, and then now they're coming in here, and it looks like they're going to get beat up by the Packers. And then a pick 6 happened. Very rare Aaron Rodgers pick 6. And from that point on, the Buccaneers just took the game and ran with it. You really saw how dominant this defense is becoming. Gronk had a fairly good game. Ronald Jones is finally breaking out, similar to what we saw at USC. Very explosive running back. And on their defense, Levante David, he's a name that not a lot of people talk about. Great player, has been super consistent for them over the most previous years. Shaq Barrett, a lot of people don't realize he led the NFL in sacks last year. Former Denver Bronco that they had to get rid of because their D-line was so good. They said, we don't got room for you, Shaq. He went to a better place. Now he's balling. Ndamukong Suh. Devin White is becoming a star middle linebacker for the Buccaneers. And then on the back end, their defense starting to really the secondary is starting to really get better. Antoine Winfield, rookie from Minnesota, he's balling for them in the secondary. This defense is clicking on all cylinders, and they're in a prime position to go ahead and win the NFC South right now.
All right. Do you want to take the game, or am I going to, Pat? Because I'm sure you have thoughts on it the same way that I did.
Let's not do our teams because we'll get into our personal teams performances this week as well.
Okay, so are we just talking about our favorite games?
Yeah, games that stood out to you.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I was probably going to go with the same game that Dom did. I mean, that game was fun to watch Brady and Gronk connect again as a Patriots fan. That was really cool to see, and I think everybody's always a little bit high on the Packers, and they always tend to disappoint a little bit. So I do hope that this game is a fluke for them. I do hope that they can pick it up and continue to be playing at a really high level. But that game, the Browns game, was interesting to me, how the Browns can look so good for a couple of weeks and then just look so bad this week. I mean, they look really, really bad. Bengals blew it. That was really sad because I had them and they were up 24-0. I was like, yes. And they blew it. However, I'm not in sole last place, so it's fine. The Falcons. That was a great game for the Falcons to come out and throttle the enemy. Lose Dan Quinn, and Ethan brought it up. They're not going undefeated, Ethan, but they looked really good. You fire your coach, sometimes you're fired up. And then the battle of the undefeated was really fun to watch too. Titans Bills. Oh wait, that was not this week. That was 2 weeks ago. My bad. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as far as games that stood out, I'd probably say that Browns-Steelers game did for me. That was a game that I thought was going to be very competitive. It seemed like a good matchup between two divisional opponents. And, in years past, that those games aren't going to be very competitive. Steelers are going to take the cake. And sure enough, even in a year where the Browns are rolling, they look good. That was not the case in this game. The Steelers took it to them on both ends of the ball, and it was a very one-sided affair. I expected a lot more out of the Browns. They gave me good reason to believe that it was going to be a good game. I figured it was pretty much a toss-up. Those are two very good teams. But the Steelers they handled business. They looked really good out there. And the Browns and Baker Mayfield especially, not so good. I mean, they look so bad that Stephen A. Smith went on First Take saying how OBJ and Jarvis Landry need to demand trades because of Baker Mayfield, which I definitely think is too far-fetched, but they did not look good. That was a big chance for them to prove just how good they truly are and that they're legit. I still think that they'll probably be a playoff team, but that was a really bad performance for them.
Yeah, the game that stood out to me has to be that Titans game. Deshaun Watson has played light years better without Bill O'Brien. He's looked terrific the past 2 games. And the one guy you got to shout out is Derrick Henry. 212 yards on the ground. 176 of those yards came after contact. On the year, he has over 400 yards after contact. He's impossible to tackle. You need probably 6 or 7 guys to try to bring him down. Derrick Henry has been terrific, but Ryan Tannehill, he's an MVP candidate for sure, easily. 4th highest QBR in the league. He has led the Titans to 4 fourth-quarter comebacks, and they're 5-0. He's playing terrific football. He's proving that since he took over for Mariota, it was the best move for the Titans, and it's just paying dividends. Ryan Tannehill's proving he was worth the money, and he is really an MVP candidate for this season. Now, moving on, how did our teams perform this week? Let's start off with the 2 that went against each other, the Broncos and Patriots.
I'll actually let Pat talk first if you'd like because he watched the game. I was actually unable to do so, so I'll let him go.
Our defense looked great. We were really good at bending and not breaking this week. I really liked the way our defense looked, but our offense, I cannot blame them. They have less raw talent than the defense. They are a team that's only going to perform well if they get the practice in. And this team had 1 practice in 2 weeks. Now, Kevin Redfern said on our show earlier this morning, 3 Guys, 1 Mic, Thursday mornings, 9 to 10 a.m. on BlazeRadioOnline.com. So Kevin Redfern said this morning, and I disagree with him. I'm just going to bring this up because it's an interesting flip side to look at. For some reason, he thinks that players like less practice, which I disagree with. I mean, if you're a player and you're playing in a scheme like the Patriots where it changes week to week and your team isn't necessarily consistent, it's a different team than it was last year, a very different team. They like their practice. They want to get those reps in. That's 2 weeks. We had 1 practice in 2 weeks. And we didn't look great on offense, but I think that'll turn around. I think we'll be a good team. I think we can take the 49ers this week. The Bills are going to be a real challenge the week after, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think you probably summed it better than I ever could, being that I couldn't watch it with my own eyes. But just from looking at what they were able to do, looking at some other video clips, Denver's defense, through all the injuries and all the adversity, continued to look very dominant. This was a defense going into the year that had a chance to crack the top 5 if they met the potential. This was, of course, pre-Von Miller. This was before A.J. Boye went down. A lot of stuff went down in between that estimate and now. So the defense has definitely stepped up. The next man up has been huge. Of course, Terrell Casey's also a guy who's out for the year. They've been hit a lot of injuries, but they played extremely well. And to go in Gillette Stadium and take care of business like that was big. I wish I could have been able to watch it. But I have to give a shout out to Brandon McManus, 6 for 6 with field goals. He was the AFC Special Teams Player of the Week, and he killed it. I just kept checking the game cast every chance that I got, and I kept saying field goal after field goal. And I was like, all right, keep them coming, man. If you're going to keep nailing the 54-yard field goals, then that's fine with me. But, it was an interesting game, and I'm curious to see how Denver can maybe carry the momentum a little bit.
Dom, over to you.
Yeah, so the Rams, they suffered a tough loss to the San Francisco 49ers. And the 49ers, they came in with a game plan, and they executed it to perfection. The Jimmy Garoppolo, he's not 100% right now. They can't rely on specifically the run game because, as we all know, you can't just rely on running the ball every single time if you want to win, especially against a team like the Rams, whose strength on defense is the defensive line. So what did? They threw a ton of screen passes on On their first drive, I think they ran 7 plays. They ran the ball twice, and they passed the ball 5 times. All 5 passes were caught behind the line of scrimmage on screen passes, and they totaled, I think, over 75 yards worth of yards after catch, which, of course, it was longer than the entire drive itself. That was the game plan of the 49ers, throw a bunch of screen passes and trust their defense. And they executed it to perfection. Jared Goff was never comfortable in the pocket all night. And as we all know, when Jared Goff is not comfortable in the pocket, he is very tough to watch. When he sets his feet, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He wasn't able to do that all night, and that's why he struggled. Now, Jared Goff also performed significantly better than a stat line of 19 for 38 for 198 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. That's not a good stat line. However, I think Cooper Kupp played the worst game since he has put on a Rams uniform. And this is not me downing on Cooper Kupp, because you guys all know how big of a fan I am of Cooper Kupp. I think he's an insanely talented receiver. He's extremely dependable, but he struggled in this game. He dropped a pass on the first drive. It was a tough catch, but catch that he normally makes, ball hit him in the hands. Then a deep pass. He got turned around on it, and he tripped, and he didn't catch it. If he catches it, he's walking into the end zone. And then he dropped a touchdown on 3rd down, and then on the next play, the Rams threw a pick in the end zone. So he certainly cost the Rams a ton of points. I don't expect Cooper Kupp to perform like this going forward, but when one of your best wide receivers makes it extremely hard on himself and hard on the quarterback to perform, especially when the offensive line isn't having a great game and the 49ers defense is going crazy, things aren't going to go well, and that's what happened. The Rams are now 0-2 against teams who aren't from the NFC East, so they need to win against someone outside the NFC East, and it doesn't get easy this week with the 5-1 Bears coming to LA.
Well, I was impressed with the Chiefs this week. Big win in Buffalo. I picked the Buffalo Bills in this one, and it's because I was very
thanks
weary.
for that, by the way.
I was very weary for that game, and I was completely impressed. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, terrific game. Career high 161 rushing yards. He was great on the ground. The line performed a lot better, and that was very shocking, and I was impressed because they lost Mitchell Schwartz after the first drive to a back injury. So Mike Remmers ended up playing right tackle with Nick Allegretti, a former 7th-round pick, going in at left guard. So I was completely impressed with the line. So that's very good to see going into this week if Schwartz is not available to play. But the defense actually looked pretty solid. Yeah, they allowed Josh Allen to get out of the pocket a little bit, which was frustrating. But they held a very explosive Bills defense. Their longest play of the game was 22 yards. They held their offense very well, so I was impressed with that. Penalties were frustrating, but it's going to happen. So I just got to get used to it. But
It's
overall,
Chiefs football.
Yeah, exactly. But no, Mahomes did his thing. He was solid, but I was completely impressed with the ground game. That's what makes the Chiefs so unbeatable if they can establish that run game. Because teams have started to drop 7, 8 guys into the secondary, and that's going to hurt Mahomes. You establish a run game, now they have to counteract that, and it makes the offense even more explosive. I'm excited to see what Le'Veon Bell does this week. He's excited to play. I'm excited to watch him play, regardless in any capacity that the Chiefs use him. So I think that's going to be really, really fun to see how the duo of Vonnie and Clyde, as I like to call it, match up well together. So I'm excited for that. But overall, big win for the Chiefs. Very happy with how they played. Got to win, so I'll take it.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight something about the Chiefs game. The offensive line it was one of the first things you mentioned, but I wanted to reiterate because if you watch the Raiders game, the offensive line really struggled. And the Bills, they have a very talented defensive line, but it hasn't been performing as well lately. So they were able to go up against a struggling defensive line, and hopefully this will give them the confidence going forward to get to where that offensive line was earlier on in the season, because we saw week 1 the Texans couldn't do anything against them. So if the Chiefs' offensive line is performing, this team is certainly the favorite in the AFC.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The offensive line is key. You saw against the Raiders, Mahomes had to continually roll out and use his legs. He wasn't comfortable in the pocket. You had him be able to be comfortable in the pocket against the Bills, and it helped. So that was big. The defense got a ton of pressure, which was huge, on Allen. He had a poor game throwing the ball, and it was big for the Chiefs to continually get pressure on Allen and put a lot of pressure on the offensive line. So completely impressed with the win. Now moving on, Tua. It is Tua time in Miami. What do you guys think of the Dolphins picking Tua to start week 8 after their bye this week?
I think that it just, for them right now, they're second in the AFC East. Fitzpatrick's doing pretty good. The team's looking pretty decent. I just don't think this is where you throw him in. They brought him in last game, and that's fine. If you have a dominant performance and you take advantage of playing a team as bad as the Jets and you want to just throw him out there, get him some reps, see how he looks, that's good. By all means, do that every chance you get, because it definitely helps his development and make it a much smoother transition once you do make him the starter. I just think throwing him in after just completing 2 passes for, I think it was like 9 yards. I don't know. It just seems a little bit forced to throw him in this week. I feel like they wrote it out a little bit. It's a very strange to see what it takes in this team with Fitzpatrick, as he's earned that respect up until this point. But sure enough, they want to go with Tua now, and I just feel like it's all a little bit forced.
So,
I'm with Parker on this one. Now, listen, everyone who knows me knows that I'm a big believer in Tua Tagovailoa. I think that when he is in rhythm, he's arguably the best college quarterback I've seen. Now, of course, he suffered some injuries in college, and I think that's really the reason that they weren't able to beat LSU last year. And then if that happens, I really don't think we're seeing Joe Burrow go number 1. That's my honest opinion on it. Joe Burrow is incredible. It's something against him, but I think Tua Tagovailoa is extremely good. And what the thing is about Tua is that he's coming in to replace a quarterback that was playing very well. And they're bringing him in after the bye, which makes sense. And listen, bringing him in after the bye, where you get 2 weeks to game plan for him, is a smart decision. However, when your quarterback is 3-3 and his 3 losses are against the Patriots, who are a good team, very well coached, they played very well in week 1, the Seahawks, who are undefeated, and then also the Buffalo Bills, who are one of the best teams in the AFC. It doesn't make any sense to me. Fitzpatrick was playing well. Like you said, everyone on this team believed in him. He was the leader of this team. They went 5-4 under him at the end of the year last year. They were 3-3 at the start of this year with a very tough opening schedule, and they bench him. It's mind-boggling to me. Now, you can say Tua is the future. That's fine. I believe it too. But at the moment, you're winning right now. You're playing good football. You're playing good football offensively with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Moving on from him doesn't make too much sense for me. And if this goes bad, it's not a good look, because who knows?
So this morning, same thing. I was in the same boat as you guys. And then, not even recording 3 Guys, 1 Mic, it wasn't even part of the show. I was talking to Kevin about this. And he brought up some really good points that I think I had acknowledged, but I didn't quite put 2 and 2 together. So, first of all, Ryan Fitzpatrick, if you look up his career stats in seasons he has started, he starts every season off great. And then he hits a wall every single time. And it's not even just like that just happens. It is a clear-cut, tried and true pattern that Ryan Fitzpatrick falls off after a certain amount of weeks. And that's a pattern he's had his whole career. He's had a long career. Every season he starts, it happens. That's the kind of player he is. So Brian Flores, who's a great coach, is preempting that. He sees that maybe Tua's ready to play. And he sees that Ryan Fitzpatrick, we don't know how many good weeks he's got left in the tank. And I get it. You can't jump the gun. But this move makes sense because this team wants to start building an identity, and they're not going to do that around Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? I mean, this is Tua's team for the future. So I think he's got some good weeks on the bench. He's learned how the system works. And he's going to go in there and he's going to be fine. But Ryan Fitzpatrick is not the way to go for the rest of this season.
Well, but here's the thing is that they're playing well. So as soon as he hits that wall, then you cut it off and say, all right.
Right. So hear me out. Hear me out here. Yes, I agree with you to the extent that maybe they should start him next week. If he loses, then, you put him on watch. And then if he loses the next week, plays not so great, yes, put two in. I hear you there. But I don't know. I think they have to make this move. I think it's a move that the team needs.
I don't think they have to do anything. They're playing good football. They're in second place in the division. Who would have seen that coming? Oh wait, I did. I really don't get it because
We're 6 weeks in.
That's fine. What I saw with here, I'm going to compare the situation a bit. What we saw in Kansas City a couple years ago, they brought in Patrick Mahomes. He was going to be the replacement after Alex Smith. They let Alex Smith ride out the year, full year under his belt. And then after that, they said, all right, hey, we're going to move on. Mahomes has a full year under his belt. He's learning the system. Now we're going to move on. Not when we're winning, that the year's over, we're going to start over. Now, like I said, it's coming after the bye, so there's a little bit more of an excuse for it. I'm not a fan of this move.
I'm on the side of Parker and Dom here. I disagree with the move. Yeah, Fitzpatrick has thrown 7 interceptions so far
That's a lot.
in 6 games. Not a good number. It's a bad number. But the past 2 weeks, he's thrown 6 touchdowns.
Against
He's
who?
been
The
solid
Jets
for
and the
them.
49ers.
49ers still have a solid defense.
49ers
They
defense
still have a
is
solid
shredded.
defense.
It's
It's
injured,
shredded.
but they still have talented players on it.
Yeah, but they're not. We're acting like the 49ers are what they're supposed to be this season. They're not.
No, that's
Yeah,
not
no-
what I'm saying
no
at all.
one's
But they
saying that.
still have got pieces. They've got a terrific linebacking core. Got Quan Alexander. They've still got Fred Warner, who's one of the best linebackers in the game.
Jason Verrett's been one of the best
Oh,
players
yeah.
in the league this year.
Verrett has been great after battling countless injuries throughout his career. That defense is still really good.
They just locked down the Rams offense, which is averaging like 28 points per game.
Who did the Dolphins play after the bye? Does anybody know off the top of their head?
The Rams.
The Rams. That's gonna be a test for him when he has Aaron Donald in his face, his first game. But we'll have to see how it pans out. I mean, I don't know. I like the move. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is great to come in, get your season going, but he's good for nothing but a jump start.
No, I still think they should have let it ride out until he hits a wall.
He's not a franchise quarterback. I mean,
Well, that's not what the argument is here. Tua, yeah, he might be healthy, he might be ready to go, but you're going to ride out the hot hand right now, and that's Ryan Fitzpatrick.
the hand's not that hot though. You said yourself 7 interceptions over 6 games.
Past 2 games, he's looked really good. He's thrown 6 touchdowns. You can't just discredit that because of the teams they're playing. He has led them.
Against the Jets, I can 100% discredit that. 100%. The 49ers, I'll give you some credit. But the Jets, I can 100% discredit.
Fine, I'll give you that point on the Jets because they're just a dumpster fire. But you can't just go away from the guy who has the faith of every single man in that locker room and has played and gotten you back from an 0-2 start to 3-3. I don't care if they have beaten the Jets or they've beaten teams that maybe have be injury riddled or not that great. Ryan Fitzpatrick has been playing solid football. And yeah, there are times in the season where he just falls apart and goes on the descent. Wait till he hits that. Why? I feel like they're rushing Tua. And I know they have the bye to get him ready. I still disagree with it. I think they should have waited until Fitzpatrick hit his wall and just start on his eventual collapse.
Mm-hmm. I wish there was an easier way to look at this. I want to see Fitzpatrick's first 4 weeks on a season, and then the rest of the season when he starts.
So what did Ryan Fitzpatrick do in Week 17 in the NFL last year, Patrick?
He beat the Patriots. Did he make the playoffs? No.
No, but that's because he was brought into a dumpster fire and he led that team a 5-4 record in their last 9 games.
5-4. We're acting like 5-4 is something stellar.
But look at the
5-4
talent that
with
they had at the time. They didn't have much talent on that team. They had the least talented roster. Xavier Howard was out. They got Byron Jones in free agency, Kyle Van Noy. He led a dumpster fire of a team to 5-4 and beat a 2-seeded Patriots team in week 17.
I'm just saying, that Patriots team, we can't give that Patriot team too much credit. That was a lucky 2-seed, if anything. And I'm not giving, at the time, 2-seed is what I'm saying.
Sure.
And I'm not giving a trophy to a guy who, if you do the full season there, he's what, 8-8, 9-7, maybe even worse, 7-9. And you know what? Every time he comes in, he starts, he does well. That's because he's just started and he went 5-4. I mean,
yes, no one's arguing that he has long-term success in the NFL. That's not the argument. The thing is that he's playing well right now, and you're cutting that off and saying we're going to bring in a rookie quarterback and we're going to throw him into the system. Now, I'm a believer in Tua, but I'm also a believer in not just wrecking something that's working right now. So because this move has boomer bust potential, and I'm afraid that it could bust because I think this.
I agree. I think it is going to bust.
Sorry,
I'm throwing him to the fire against Aaron Donald.
All right.
And that offensive line is not that great.
I finally have stats to back myself up. You ready? 2011 on the Buffalo Bills starts 4-1. Rest of the season, he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He goes 2-9. He goes 2-9 the rest of the season. All right. The next season he started. That was the first season he ever started. Okay. Then we go to the next season. He starts 2-2. And then the team ended up going 6-10. Then he didn't start this season. All right, this is his best season as a starter with the New York Jets, okay? He was 6-10, or he was 10-6. So he started 4-1, and then ended up going 10-6. So that's a good season. And then what do we have after that? The 10-6 Jets. This is not his whole career, is it? Oh,
yeah, he doesn't have a ton of starting career, and then he went down to Tampa.
Yep. Where
he started off well. Yes, right.
He was the hottest fantasy quarterback through week 3.
That Tampa Bay team, Tampa Bay team was not very good. They had Mike Evans. That was about it. Now, I think you're talking about a team here that's got Devontae Parker. They got Preston Williams. They got Mike Gesicki. They've got other options here. They got Myles Gaskin, an offense that is playing well because Fitzpatrick is playing well. And they're putting in a different quarterback. And I'm not saying it's not going to work out. I just think that it's a dumb thing to ruin something that is working right now. Now, I'm not there. Like Pat, you didn't mention, we're not there. We don't know how Tua's looking in practice.
Right.
We can't look at those 2 passes and say, well, here's how we look on these 2 passes. It's 2 passes.
You're right.
Especially against the Jets. So, now, well, Brian Flores might be seeing something different than us at practice, which is something we don't know. However, I will stand by the point. They are playing well offensively right now. Why are you making a quarterback change?
I found another season. He played in Houston. He started 4-1 and went 6-10. Just want to put that out.
Sure.
Again, I don't think you're understanding our argument.
I understand your argument. He's
junction.
playing well right now. I get it.
Wait till he hits that wall. The offense is rolling. They put up 43 points on the 49ers.
But what if you hit that wall and it's too late to make your push? Like, what if he gets to 6 wins and then all of a sudden they lose 2 straight, then they're 6-5, then they're in trouble, right? I mean, because Tua is not going to come in and go undefeated. He's not going to win out to save the team's season.
No. But the thing is, they're in a spot right now where they are winning. They've won their last 2 games by 20-plus points. They're playing good football right now. Now, like you mentioned, one of them is against the Jets. You got to take that with a grain of salt. But what if Tua comes in and he looks like garbage? They're not going to pull Tua. If Fitzpatrick looks like garbage, which, of course, we're never going to get to that. We're never going to see it. They just put in Tua. But if Tua comes in and he doesn't play well, it's going to look like an awful decision.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Right.
Let's do pick'ems.
This is, like you said earlier, Dom, this is a boom or bust type of decision. And week 8 is going to be very interesting because of that. But with that, we're going to move on to our weekly picks. Here are our standings. In first place is Dom, 61, 29, and 1. Second place is Parker, 59, 31, and 1. In third place is Pat, 58, 32, and 1. And last place is me.
Oh, guess who's on the bottom? The scum of the earth, Ryan Blank.
Then in last is me, 57, 33, and 1. And you know what? I'm going to put it like this. I'd rather the Chiefs win and me be in last place than have the Chiefs lose and be ahead of you. Because guess what? I'm going to come back, Pat, and you're going to be in last at the end of the year. So get used to it, buddy. So that's how.
Buddy. Okay.
Yeah, keep picking the Bengals and see what happens.
I'm gonna keep picking the Bengals until they freaking win. Go Bengals.
They're playing a divisional game at home this week. We'll see.
We'll see. Go Bengals.
All right, Ryan, let's go.
Okay, first game tomorrow night, Thursday Night Football. Giants travel to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles.
Giants.
Yeah. Giants. I would say this game doesn't matter, but it actually does, because if the Eagles win, they're tied atop the division with the Cowboys. I'll take the Eagles. They looked very good against the Ravens. Only lost by 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Eagles here. The Giants pick baffles me, Parker. No offense.
The Eagles have been absolute garbage all year, the same way they have been.
Yeah,
So.
both teams suck.
And plus, with Thursday Night Football, anything can happen. So
Yes.
I don't care.
No Miles Sanders and no Zach Ertz, so it could go either way.
Yeah, that's
I'm
true.
going to go the Eagles. I'm going to go the Eagles. And I'm going to say it. I don't know if the Giants deserve to win last week's game. I think it was poor 2-point conversion execution on Kyle Allen. So I'm going to take the Eagles.
At one play, but
well, yeah, but
right, yeah.
You get my point. So I'm going to take the Eagles in this one. Next up, we just mentioned them. They're Pat's team. The Browns travel to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals.
Woo, give me the Tigers, baby.
Go Browns.
I'll take the Browns. It'll be a very close game, similar to last time.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm going to disagree with you, Pat, because this will be the game I believe I make up on you. So I'm going to take the Browns. Next up, we have the Cowboys traveling to Washington to take on the football team.
Football team, let's go.
I was going to take the football team too.
I'm going to go Dallas. I hate picking these NFC East games, but I'm going to just stick with them.
They're actually the worst.
Okay. I think that last week was a fluke for Andy Dalton. That was just rough first start. So I'm going to take the Cowboys in this one. And hopefully these two put me ahead of you, Pat. So this week can mean a lot for the rest of the season. So next game, the Lions travel to Atlanta to take on the Falcons, who are 1-0 without Dan Quinn.
Take the Lions.
I will take the Lions as well.
Taking the Falcons.
This is tough.
It is a tough game.
I really like how the Falcons looked last week because they looked terrific. The Lions, I'm going to go Falcons in this one. I really like how they looked last week, and I think it's going to translate. Matt Ryan looked really good. The offense looked great. Next up, the Panthers travel to New Orleans to take on the Saints.
Saints.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Saints. I think this will also be a very good game. A high-scoring game, too.
Yeah, Slant Boy is back. I'm giving it to the Saints.
Actually, we don't know if Slant Boy will be back.
Might not.
We just assume that he will be.
Slant Boy should be back. So
Teddy Bridgewater revenge game, folks.
I'm going to take the Saints in this one. I think it's going to be.
I
I think it's going to be a terrific game. I think it's going to be a very close game. But I'm going to take the Saints in this one at home. Next up, the Bills go into MetLife to take on the Jets.
Bills.
I mean, law of averages, the Jets have to win eventually, right?
I mean, Pat.
I really don't want to pick the Bills. I really don't want to pick the Bills.
Do it, Pat.
The Bills have lost what, their last two?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll take the Jets. I'll take the Jets in this one.
No, Pat.
Joe Flacco.
Dude, the Bills lost to the Chiefs.
The
and the Titans.
Flacco attack. Give me Joe Flacco and the New York Jets in this one. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Oh,
I'm
no.
taking the Bills. I'm going to be smart on this one. I'm taking the Bills in this one. Next up, the Packers travel to Houston to take on the Texans.
Go Pack, go.
Yep, Green Bay.
I'm taking the Texans. I'm taking the Texans. They like
They,
their
they
head
look
coach.
good. They
They
look
look good.
They look good.
They look good since they've gotten rid of that demon that was Bill O'Brien. So they look good. I'm taking the Texans. They're rolling right now. Packers are coming off a really bad loss. So we'll see how this game goes. But for now, I'm taking the Texans.
I think Aaron Rodgers and company are going to bounce back and have a great game. I think it's going to be a very close game because both offenses, I think, are going to perform well. But I'm going to take the Packers in this one. Next up, the game of the week between two undefeated foes of the Steelers and Titans.
I'm going to go Titans.
I'm taking the Titans here as well.
I will go Steelers. I think this will be a very good game. It'll be very tightly fought between two of the better teams in the AFC. We'll admit I was wrong on both these teams coming into the year. Said both of them would finish in third place. I was wrong. Ryan was right. I will take the Steelers in this game, though.
Welcome to the Steelers bandwagon. Glad to have you. I'm taking the Steelers. They looked really good against the Browns, and they dominated them. So I think they're going to have a great game. That defense is one of the best in the league, and I think they're going to get the win. So Steelers in this one. Next up, Seattle travels to Arizona to take on the Cardinals.
Seattle.
Yeah, I'm going to take Seattle. It's going to be a very close game. I think the Cardinals are a very good team, and they always play the Seahawks very tough in the Dome in Arizona. But it's tough to pick against the Seahawks coming off their bye week. I will take the Seahawks.
That's what I'm struggling with here is that it's really hard to pick them off the bye week. But, I mean, Arizona's got a really good offense, and the Seahawks defense, it's okay, but it's not great. Yeah, I'll take Seattle in this one too.
I have Seattle as well. This was a very tough game for me to pick because the Cardinals looked very good against the Cowboys, even though it's the Cowboys, but they still looked very good.
It's probably going to be my favorite game to watch next week, honestly.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that game and the Steelers game.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, the Jaguars travel to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers, or as Dom says, the C words.
Yes, this is a very rare C words pick from Dom. I will be heavily rooting against them, but I do think they get the win. The Jaguars are a wrecking ship.
Yep, Chargers.
C words.
I'm going to take the Chargers. Justin Herbert's looked good so far, so I'm going to stick with them. Next up, 49ers go into at Gillette Stadium and take on the New England Patriots.
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 Yeah, it's a tough game. Another game that I think is going to be very good. These are two teams that I think this is honestly a must-win game if these teams want to make the playoffs. With that being said, it is a late afternoon game in New England. New England will have a week of practice this week, like Pat said. However, I was very impressed with how the 49ers looked last week. I'm going to take the 49ers in this game, and I have a feeling I'm going to be alone on this one.
If I have my justification is the fact that this is a must-win game for the Patriots, whether or not people
It's
want
a
to believe it.
must-win game for both teams. That's what I just said. I
Well-
think that both teams need this win, and it's going to be very close.
Dom, you're not going to be alone. I'm taking the
All right.
49ers. I think last week's game proves something that despite all the losses that they have on defense and on offense now, losing Mostert again, I still think they're going to be very good, and I'm going to take the 49ers over the Patriots. The offense just was too out of sync for me to pick them. Next up, the Chiefs travel to Denver late afternoon. Who do we have?
Chiefs. Too many injuries.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs too.
I'm back on the Chiefs, yeah. Moving on. Tampa Bay travels to Vegas to take on the Raiders, who are coming off their bye.
I think this is a statement win for the Las Vegas Raiders. The Buccaneers look very impressive. The Raiders are coming off their bye, and I think they have enough weapons to be able to defeat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The weapons for the Green Bay Packers were a dinged-up Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, but the Raiders have a better offensive line than the Packers, and I think they have more weapons in them, and I think it'll be a very close game. I will side with the Raiders here at home.
Give me the Buccaneers.
You can't see, but I will also go Raiders here.
I would take the Buccaneers. That defense, especially that front seven, has just been so dominant throughout the course of the season.
Never mind.
That's
Give
hard
me
for me to
Raiders.
pick against them.
Give me Raiders. Never mind.
Fine. Go ahead. Which one do you want, Pat?
No, I'll take the Buccaneers. I'm kidding, buddy. I'm kidding.
Are you trying to like hold my hand? What are you trying
Yeah,
to
buddy.
do?
Aw.
Here. There you go.
Aw.
There you go. Okay. Last game, Monday night. The Bears travel to Los Angeles to take on the Rams.
Rams.
I like the Bears odds in this one. As much as I like the Rams too, I like the Bears in this one, so I'm going to take the Bears here.
I think a lot of what the Bears offense does is similar to what the 49ers offense does with Nick Foles. Doesn't really throw the ball down the field. They're going to do similar to what the 49ers did last week. A lot of screens, a lot of running the ball straight up the middle. I will take the Bears. I picked the Bears to win last year over the Rams. The Rams won. I'm hoping that I can do the same for that this year. Well, we'll see. It's going to be a good game. Good Monday Night Football game.
I'm very excited for this matchup, and I think that Aaron Donald's going to have a big game. The Bears' offensive line is not very good, so I'm going to take the Rams in this one. That is going to conclude Week 7 preview for the NFL. Enjoy Week 7 as we have a bunch of terrific matchups. We will be back next week. Have a great rest of your week, everyone.
See you, folks.